What is up, everybody? It is Wick here, and I've got a great video today. This one was really fun to put together because we're going to be talking about a lot of Radio Shack stuff. Surprisingly, Radio Shack stuff, many items are worth a lot of money and they keep going up in value. People are looking for them, they're collecting them. A lot of stuff from my childhood I was finding here. This is the kind of stuff that you can find at thrift stores, rummage sales, garage sales, auctions, places like that. If you spot it, buy it, sell it, make some money. As always, I mention when I make these types of videos, people always leave in the comments, they'll go out literally the next day and find this stuff. Not saying it's easy to find, but it's definitely out there. If you do like these kinds of videos, make sure to hit that like button for me. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, leave a comment, do all that stuff. I really appreciate it. Keep supporting the videos and I'll keep making them. But let's jump into it. So the first item I'm going to talk about is something that actually shocked me. I was doing research and I came across this. It's been a long time since I thought about it. And it's this Roby the Robot, or Roby the Robot is probably how you pronounce it. There's a few different ones. You got Roby Senior here, Roby Junior. But this one here, Roby the Banker, is one that I got for Christmas one year as a child, and I might even still have it somewhere. I'm gonna have to go do some digging, but you can see one here sold brand new for $265. Of course, anything new like this is gonna sell for more than the pre-owned. You can see some of these other ones sold for over $100, and I can kind of see these selling for that much money because they got that 80s robot look that everyone likes. But I'm really surprised that the Banker version is selling so high. And if you keep scrolling, you can see some of the pre-owns. Here's another Roby Jr., the one with the tray. I kind of remember the commercial for that one. And let's see, here's another Roby. This one's pre-owned with the box, $109.99. Another one pre-owned. Here's one with 26 bids. Sold for $91. You can see it out of the box there. Honestly, if I do still have that, knowing that it's worth this much money and the nostalgia for me, I'll probably just put it up on the shelf with some of my other treasures. You know what really upsets me? I know I saw one of these somewhere, either at Goodwill or a garage sale, and it just kind of clicked in my mind that there's no way that's worth money or something, which is why you always do research. At some point, I'm definitely going to find one of these again. I'm going to buy it right away. So of course, anyone familiar with Radio Shack, you have a lot of the Tandy computer stuff that's worth money. Here's a rare one with a desk that sold for $9,000. Not a lot of people are going to be finding that. I think it even said there's only 10 ever made. But there are a lot of actual computers here, certain models that will sell for around $1,000, $500. Here's one with the monitor. Here's a Radio Shack bust of Charles Tandy, $550. I mean, why not if you find one, right? I recently found that Toys R Us employee award that's worth like $450. So you just never know what some of this stuff from these closed stores that have this classic pulp culture like nostalgia behind it, especially for people my age. You remember going to the malls? You go to a mall and there'd be a Radio Shack in like every mall. Most cities had like 2 or 3 Radio Shacks, it seemed. Especially around Christmas, you go walk by it in the mall. All these gadgets and electronics were going, remote control cars, robots, doing all these crazy things. Just something that's lost in time, right? Just really cool to go back and look at some of this stuff. But Tandy computer stuff, anything Tandy really, even this like Meg disk system for $425. I've talked about some of these old computer parts in these Bolo videos before, but of course, Radio Shack makes a lot of different types of Tandy computer items. So if you do notice any of these vintage computers, vintage monitors, they're always worth looking up. Actually, this Tandy right here, the 128K color computer, or Tandy 2, it seemed like it was what I have. I actually have one listed right now with a bunch of games and controllers. I think I have a price like $500. Has not sold yet, but it will at some point, I believe. Of course, with Radio Shack, you automatically start thinking about RC cars, and there's some really good ones. Like these buggies, you see one sold pre-owned for $600, $320, $329, $300, but not just the buggies, like all the cars in general, like these Porsche. I'm trying to think, I think I sold a Ferrari. I got it at a estate sale just a few months ago. I sold it for $60 plus shipping. Not every RC is going to be worth $300, $400 from Radio Shack. A lot of them just aren't worth much. I have another one listed for like $20 or $30. It might take a long time to sell because it's just not very popular. popular. But the point of these videos is to be able to spot some of this stuff. And if you do see any kind of RC, really, it should be looked up and researched, because some of them are just, worth a lot of money. The motorcycle here is a classic one, sells for over $200. Here's an Impala RC car with hydraulics. Back in the early 90s, hydraulics was a big thing. All the rappers, had them on their cars and stuff. So it just kind of shows the time there that they were making RCs, with the same thing. But Radio Shack released a lot of RC cars, so certainly keep an eye out for these. He's even a Grinch one here that has some value. Here's another thing that might shock a lot of people. This is something I've sold recently as well. I found one of these Radio Shack scanners at a garage sale. I paid $7 for it. I sold it for $100. Only took about 2 days to sell, but some of these are worth a lot of money. Now, I'm no scanner expert. I don't know what makes them worthwhile. I just see them for $7. I buy them blind and look them up, and I'm hoping they're a good one, right? Now here's some that sold for $400. You got the digital trunking, which, I'm not a scanner person. I don't even know what that means exactly, but I see some of the trunking stuff is usually worth more money. I probably should just Google it and look it up sometime so I know what I'm talking about. The Pro 668, a great one, $315 pre-owned. All the prices are hovering right around $300 for this unit. Some more of these scanners that, well, I guess they're for not the car. You put them inside the house, $275, but there's a lot of different ones that hold some value. Like I said, the one I got is a lower end one, and it still sold for $100. And the sell-through rate on these is crazy. I think there was like 28 sold, maybe 2 or 3 listed when I listed mine. And like I said, I just listed it higher than everyone else's, and it sold very quickly. I'm not aware, like maybe you just can't buy these anymore anywhere, like from other companies. It's just strange that, Radio Shack made so many of them and they're worth this much, or maybe they're just better quality. Again, I don't know. I just sell the things. Lots of electronics are coming from Radio Shack, so you can expect to see receivers as well. And the receivers, a lot of them are made by Realistic. A lot of the speakers and electronics, because, they partner with different brands and they sold them. I'm not sure if Radio Shack owned Realistic or whatever, but you see a lot of Realistic stuff come from Radio Shack. And vintage receivers always can be great money. Radio Shack's no different. Here's one of these shortwave radio receivers, $350. I've never sold a Radio Shack receiver, but I have sold other ones for close to $500. I sold one for one time. So again, just more of this kind of stuff to look forward to. You can just see as I scroll through here real quick. The prices stay high for a while. This scared me when I first saw it because I sold these Archer Space Patrols before. They're walkie-talkies. You can see they put in the title Back to the Future Rare. They were in the Back to the Future movie, selling for quite a bit of money. And I remember selling mine for not much. I was actually surprised because mine had the box and paperwork and everything, and they just weren't worth a lot. And I thought, oh no, did I mess up? Are they worth this much now? But it turns out, if I keep scrolling here, you get away from the ones that were in Back to the Future. I believe I had the Space Patrol walkie-talkies, this set right here, that sold for best offer under $40. So you really want to find the ones that were in the Back to the Future movie. Radio Shack advertising. Here's a battery, it looks like, for $300. A battery ashtray, really cool. Got this Burger King Walkman, new seal from 1983. Sign. Here's Radio Shack advertised on a model train car, $168. Pretty cool. There's another one of these Burger Kings. Looks like Pizza Hut had one as well. Some of them, though, not selling for as much as you'd think, being, brand new sealed. Then one of the ashtrays looks like it's rusted, some Pepsi. This is kind of shocking. A Radio Shack Christmas promo newspaper catalog insert, $40. Kind of crazy that sold for that much. I wonder how consistent that is. Some Radio Shack magazines and other newspapers might sell. I did not research those, but here's even some Radio Shack shopping bags, 100 of them for $38.67. People love this kind of stuff, like I said, because they grew up with it. They just remember it. They want to collect it. They want it in their house. This is cool. I believe I've seen one of these at a yard sale before. It just seems like it. It's hard to remember everything, but this is a Radio Shack Nova Pyramid stereo system. One sold for $461, 250, 142. This is one of those things, if I found it, I'd price it high and just wait until someone really wanted it, because I wouldn't mind holding on to it for a while. Just really cool looking. So here's something that is just one of these classic bolos. something you would not expect to be worth money that I bet a lot of people just walk past at a sale is these Leatherman Squirt EL like multi-tools. Here's one new that sold for $219, but check out this pre-owned one that sold for $215. Leatherman makes some good stuff anyway that can sell for around $100 by themselves, so always worth checking out. Here's another one pre-owned for $180. Just looks like any like multi-tool, right? Just says Radio Shack on it. Pretty easy to spot thanks to saying Radio Shack. I really hope I can find one of these one time because this is the kind of stuff I'm really passionate about, finding these really strange items that you wouldn't expect to be worth anything that you can find for like a quarter. Like look how small it is. It's like a very small tool, really. 118, 110. Radio Shack Leatherman, look for them. Radio Shack's one of those stores that would sell different brands. They sold some Heathkit stuff, and I want to talk about Heathkit real quick because they make some really high-end stuff, and I think the company Heathkit may still exist. I don't know if they're selling the same kind of stuff, but they sold a lot of vintage electronics. You can see this accurate clock, which they are popular for, sold for over $2,000. But there's also Radio Shack clocks, these Radio Shack weather clocks, surprising value, right? You got weather clock, $160 pre-owned, $160 pre-owned. I pass on a lot of weather clocks because most of them aren't worth it, but these Radio Shack ones here definitely are selling over $100. And this is the kind of stuff that you find in garage sales. People find it in their closet and they put it out for $1 or $2. They have no idea that a Radio Shack weather clock is going to have this kind of value. But Heathkit makes more than just clocks, and I wanted to show you some of these things, like these $6,000 speakers, Fisher Tube stereo preamplifier, over $2,000. I had just recently sold a Heathkit sonic cleaner and I got like $80 for it, so that was pretty good. Paper tape reader punch, just all these weird kind of things, right? So if you see Heathkit, they kind of make high-end stuff worth checking out. Again, more speakers, amplifiers. Here's a Heathkit Hero Robot broken arm. Not even sure what that is, but it sold for over $1,000. Just an interesting brand, and Radio Shack sold a lot of their stuff. Radio Shack also sold sound mixers. Again, pretty good stuff. Over $100 in a lot of cases. Here's another thing I found kind of shocking because I found these a couple years ago, and I don't think they were selling for this much. They're in my death pile somewhere. These are the Xmods. They're like these cars that you kind of can take apart and put together and mix the pieces. I got quite a bit, maybe about as much as in this picture. And it looked like it sold for like $320 at some point, $225 for that set, around $100 for this stuff. So I'm gonna have to find that stuff. I remember when I bought it, it was only selling for like $50. So I think that stuff has went up in value. Lots of pieces. Obviously, the more pieces you have, the better. But yeah, I think I even had some sealed stuff like this. It's one of those things that I definitely gonna have to find those. I've talked about calculators before on the channel, how they can be worth thousands of dollars. Radio Shack has some calculators. They're not worth as much as many other brands like HP, but still, if you can find some of these vintage calculators, a lot of times you're getting them for like a quarter, right? Not every calculator, again, is going to be worthwhile, but some of these look pretty basic, and if you can find them for a quarter, flip them for 30, 40 bucks. Why not grab them? Even the Radio Shack directory organizer, some of those, are selling for a decent amount. Usually if I'm at a sale and I see old calculators like this and they're $1, I just buy them. I don't even think about it. Radio Shack definitely made some crazy items that didn't make much sense. Here's a Super Armatron, some sort of robotic arm. I'm not sure. I guess it's some sort of toy or game. This is something I don't actually remember, but seems to hold some value, and I can see why there's a lot of people looking for it if you actually had it as a kid. It's one pre-owned for over $100. Looks like they're right around $100. This is really cool. This is a Booster Boy for a Nintendo Game Boy. This is a Radio Shack exclusive. Looks like they're selling for about $150, somewhere around there. $100 pre-owned, but a lot of times you find this kind of stuff just around in old video game lots, and a lot of people don't think they're worth as much because they're not, an actual Game Boy. Just something you put your Game Boy in, but still something really cool to keep an eye out for. Realistic Radio Shack speakers is something that holds value. You can see here over $100, $200. Not going to spend much time on speakers because so many different speakers are worth money. I feel like almost every kid my age had a Radio Shack keyboard of some sort. I just feel like these things are given away at Christmas time like candy or something. Some of them do hold some value. People still use these to make music. They want that old vintage gear, from what I understand. I'm very picky on the keyboards I buy, but I have sold one before for around $100. And many times at garage sales, people just want to get rid of them because they're big and they're in their way, so they'll price them cheap. I actually had a woman beg me to take the one I sold for $100. I didn't even really want to deal with it. You can find some rare phones from Radio Shack, like the cellular phone for $199. I believe I talked about those in another video. Also the clear phones, really cool. People are looking for those. $100 for like one of the brand new clear phone. Again, people like this kind of stuff. It is a pretty big thing to make rooms that are just dedicated to being from a certain time period. And if you're doing that, you have to have the phone, right? This one was kind of shocking to me. Some of these old burglar and fire alarm control centers. This is, again, something you see all the time at garage sales, this kind of stuff. Worth a good amount of money for being, old and kind of outdated. Here's just an alarm control panel for a safe house. $141.04. I've talked about the new tone stuff like this. Similar, it can sell for really good money. A lot of this security system stuff, though, when you do find it and look it up, it's not very good, but these right here, people are still buying for whatever reason. Lots of cool lamps came from Radio Shack. Here's some of these plasma lamps. Pre-owned, you're looking at $200 for this model. I wonder what that sold for, in the store. Probably like $20 or $30, right? Another thing that they sold all the time were the metal detectors. And I thought they were going to be some very valuable Radio Shack metal detectors, but not really. They just must have been garbage because I looked them up and they just really weren't selling for much. I think the most expensive one was like $70 or $80. Again, lots of cool toys and robots came from Radio Shack. This is one of the more popular ones, the Galactic Man in the box, right around $200. And there's also the space pistols. You get them for Christmas as a kid and they just made so much noise and you just keep shooting them until the parents went insane. But they're still holding some value as well. Here's one, it looked like probably around $50, $70 for one of these Shockwave Galactic Men, $65 for the gun. It's just got a really cool look to it. Or does he transform? He might transform into a gun. I'm not, completely familiar with this one, but really cool nonetheless. Would love to find one. Radio Shack made a lot of these toys that were for learning. And you got these tube testers, which certain ones can sell for over $300, $200 here, $150 for this Tandy telephone tester. Not even sure what that is, but definitely worth checking out, if you see any of these tube testers. And also the microcomputer trainers, which kind of help with programming, I believe, or electronics like a computer would have. Set selling, for over $100. See lots of sets here. Usually when you find these, though, they're not in the greatest shape, I've noticed, but still they hold value. They hold memories for a lot of people, and memories equal money. Something else I saw when I was doing some research, the Radio Shack radio that is hacked to be a ghost spirit box for paranormal investigators. I have no idea what's going on there, but they're selling for over $100. And if you find these radios, I'm sure whoever's hacking these and reselling them on eBay would happily pay you, $50 or whatever for one of them for just a cheap radio. It says hacked by skeleton crew. I'm not into the paranormal hunting ghost scene, so I have no idea. These things are selling for over $100, so I'm sure there's lots of these little pocket radios around. And of course, Radio Shack had tons of chess sets, these electronic chess sets. Some of them hold great value. I think the most I've sold one for is around $100. Probably one of these. I just don't remember the actual model because this chess champion 2250XL is selling for right around $100 pre-owned. Now looking at this one right here, that box, I'm pretty sure that's one I've sold. I remember getting it at a rummage sale. But that's going to do it for the video, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Tons of stuff there. Hopefully you learned something. Let me know in the comments if there's any other Radio Shack items that are good to sell. There were so many of them. I could go on and on talking about them, but the video would be way too long for YouTube. Before you go, don't forget to hit that like button for me. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, flipping_junk. And this has been Wick. Until next time.